We are living through possibly one of the most radical changes in transportation that we may see in our lifetime, and unfortunately, in my opinion, it's in the wrong direction. Yes, self-driving cars are like a sci-fi gimmick come to life, but that does not negate the fact that self-driving cars, as a general concept, make not very much sense at all. But despite this, the race to create the first and the best self-driving car technology is a war being waged between the billionaires who run the Goliaths of our modern tech world. But of course, it is very easy to dunk on these things because if you look up Robotaxi or Waymo something into Google, you will find just an endless stream of stories about how something is going wrong with these vehicles. Botched public rollouts, stories of self-driving cars hitting people or cats or cyclists or other robots. This one lady got hit by a car, then got hit by a self-driving car, and then was dragged underneath that car down the road. But my problem with these vehicles, and the reason why I'm making this video, is not because they're testing robotic vehicles on public roadways, endangering everyone around them. It's that even if these cars become the thing that they want to become, they go mainstream, they will actually create more problems than they solve and make our cities and our lives worse in the process. This video is sponsored by Ground News. So I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, almost exactly a year. And the reason why is because there has been this relentless push towards driverless cars in that time, and at pretty much every step along the way, it has been chaos and destruction. Now, for clarity, I have a geography degree with a focus on environmental sustainability and urban planning, and I would love to nerd the fuck out about how awful cars are generally as a transportation type. But Jason from Not Just Bikes released a hour-long film about self-driving cars almost a year ago, and he pretty much just nailed it. Because here's the thing. Self-driving cars are not just a transportation solution. They represent a massive cultural shift that we are in the middle of right now, and that we don't really know the outcome of. And in my opinion, it's probably not going to be great.
The future is dark and dismal, where it's not a future you want to be in. So
one of the biggest red flags about the whole self-driving revolution is how it's being rolled out. Like, even if we ignore the whole run people over first and tweak the settings later kind of mentality that these tech companies have been rolling with, the whole thing feels forced. Like I mentioned in the intro, that there's just been an endless series of disaster stories about these vehicles. Well, the only other kind of article that you will see about self-driving cars for the most part is what stock you should be buying to get ahead of the curve. Like, they're saying literally, hey, ignore those headlines about how fucked up this all is. Buy the dip, dude. You gotta buy low and sell high. Elon Musk specifically keeps telling people to use this technology even though it's definitely not ready yet. And despite very little public interest and a track record that should be redacted like the fucking Epstein list, we're getting them anyway. We've talked about the innovation adoption curve a number of times on this channel. It's a pretty basic concept, and there is always a process of resistance in a population when a new technology is trying to make the leap from startup to mainstream adoption. And there is this part right here, which is the gap that they all have to make it across. Now, the reason why so many technologies fail to make it to the holy land of broad-reaching appeal is because it is very hard to do. To create something that is genuinely unique, practical, but price competitive, and profitable to keep shareholders happy, especially when we have a whole market of competitors to deal with. We're not going to get into the fact that right now there's not a lot of competitors and that the market is sort of rigged because there's a bunch of massive players and whatnot. Bear with me here though. My sort of bleak outlook here is that sadly it doesn't matter what we think of it at this point. We are going to get self-driving cars on our streets because the money has been spent, and it has become a race between all of the biggest and most powerful tech companies on Earth to try and get there first. But before we get into all that, let's just get this out of the way first. Cars, self-driving or not, are not a good form of transportation. All right, so look, this could be the entire video on its own, because this should be enough of a reason for this technology to not exist, because even if you're only remotely tuned in to the urbanism conversation online, you would know that cars are just like the least efficient way to get people around, especially in urban areas. And self-driving cars are only going to, at best, make them marginally less awful. The idea that self-driving cars are going to eliminate congestion is just kind of laughable, because unless every single other car on the road is a Waymo, these cars are going to be stuck in traffic with regular cars. Traffic that will actually become worse because there will actually be more vehicles on the road because self-driving makes driving easier. It's called induced demand. Actually, recently, Waymo had to suspend all driverless cars in San Francisco because the cars were stalling in the middle of the road after power outages. How was that for eliminating congestion? We found this story on Ground News. They are an app and a website that we have partnered with time and time again because they allow us to keep up with our favorite topics through diverse perspectives, since they bring all articles covering a topic into a single feed to compare the coverage for yourself. This is an amazing tool that we use all the time. We keep working with them because we love their platform and we think that you will too. So go and check them out at ground.news/LH. Now, when you take a look at this story, it has over 200 articles covering it, and you can see who each of these sources is backed by or what their level of factuality is, which really helps when trying to assess the level of bias in a given story. This actually seems like a pretty bipartisan issue because there's 100 center-leaning sources covering this, with a lot of them featuring a high or very high level of factuality. But another awesome feature is their blind spot feed, which shows you what the left and the right are and are not talking about. Here, you can get easy access to the other side's news reality to see the full picture of what's going on in the world. We love Ground News because they are making it easy for you to make informed decisions by sharpening your critical thinking skills. Plus, they're based in Canada, just like us. So we encourage you to dive right in by going to ground.news/LH, or you can scan this QR code to get yourself started. You can join for less than $1 a month, or you can use our link in the description to get 40% off their unlimited access Vantage plan, which is the one that we use. Thanks again, Ground News, for sponsoring this channel, for making these videos possible, and for creating the service that we love. Now, let's get back into the video. And what I find mind-boggling is how these companies talk about driverless cars as a safety measure, because they're supposed to be safer than a human driver, and apparently statistically they are. But I would argue that putting a bunch of monkeys in giant steel machines that they drive around in a city with very close proximity to each other at very high speeds was not really a good, safe way of getting people around in the first place, right? Like, the truth is, the cars are the problem, not the kind of intelligence that is driving it. Like, in this situation, the only difference is that Waymo is giving you the opportunity to get hit by a vehicle that doesn't have a driver in it. And then the ethical and legal side of that is just baffling to me. Like, we're doing the trolley problem in real life with self-driving cars. I found this TEDx video from 10 years ago that captures what we are dealing with today on a daily basis, which is, what does a human-designed computer do in a dilemma where it must choose between one life and another? You can go down the fucking rabbit hole with this one. But for a second, I want you to also just step back and consider the broader implications of self-driving technology versus what we traditionally used to transport people in mass numbers around, which is public transportation. The fucking greatest thing ever, Levi's super biased. Yeah, I am, get over it. I think self-driving cars are most disappointing to me because it's like that joke where like men will do anything but go to therapy, you know, like there's memes about it. Like cold plunging is like way easier for men to wrap their heads around than going and talking to somebody about their problems. Like Americans will do anything but build high-speed rail lines or a public transit system that doesn't suck. And the reason why is all to do with individualism. So in an effort to round out my bias a little bit, I watched a video that Shelby Church made about self-driving cars because, you know, I was curious to see what a rich blonde woman in LA has to say about these things. I came into it with very low expectations, and I was surprised, y'all. Honestly, there is this one point in the video where she's describing the experience of getting a Waymo and why she likes it. And she talks about, you know, it's nice and private, there's no one to talk to, I can control all the settings, it's more relaxing. right? And this perfectly captures the individualist experience. It's a great experience from an individualistic standpoint. The whole Waymo thing is just all about you. She also talks about the safety aspects of riding in a Waymo versus, something like an Uber where there's a person in it. But if you look at public transit on the other side of this coin, it puts groups of people together in one place, which is seen as a disadvantage by North Americans, and for everyone else, it's just normal life. Now, from a safety standpoint, I've seen it pointed out that driverless cars actually make riders very vulnerable because you're alone in a vehicle that can be stopped by a person with a traffic cone. Whereas the public in public transit creates a group environment where a lot of these things are a lot less likely to happen because there's a bunch of fucking people watching you. However, beyond the individual experience of the thing, transit systems benefit the built environment of a city, whereas self-driving cars take away from it. Hub terminals end up being some of the most iconic buildings in a city, or plazas, or public parks in a neighborhood. They become a vibrant cultural center because that's where all the people are going. So that's where all the shops want to be. So that's where all the businesses want to be. That's where all the houses want to be. But if every single person is in their own individual self-driving cars going all the way out to the suburbs at the end of the day, they're not even going to see the view passing by because they're going to be sitting in the back seat looking at their phone instead. Now, I don't want to talk about Shelby too much, but in her video, she actually visited a park that was previously a parking lot. And in her video, she's sort of using this park as a way to illustrate, hey, we might not need as much parking when we have self-driving cars. And look, this parking lot could actually become a park, and look at how great that is. But in the video, she actually also mentions that part of the reason why the park is so enjoyable is because it's connected to mass transit. Like, it is a part of the transit system. Color me surprised, but Shelby Church is actually low-key an urbanist nerd. Wouldn't have pegged her for it.
My instinctual reaction was like, what the fuck does Shelby Church know about self-driving cars and urbanism?
Yeah, how dare a woman speak on men issues?
We are the nerdy bros of urbanist land planning. We do not allow girls in the clubhouse.
But now, imagine this further layer, because if you're sitting in a self-driving car, you are probably willing to sit through more traffic because you can sit there in comfort. You can game on your phone, you can get some work done, you can do whatever. So now you have a bunch of other people who are actually even more capable of tolerating traffic, which is going to lead to more traffic. And look, there is 100 other aspects of this that I could get into here. Like, for example, these are pods owned by nobody and being used by people in somewhat privacy, which would definitely lead to a ton of vandalism and abuse, which would make ridership go down or be curtailed to higher income areas of major cities, which is sort of the opposite of what mass transit is all about. And this is the last urbanist thing I'm gonna say about it. If we had taken all of the billions of dollars that we have invested into these robot cars and we had instead put it into our cities, we might have walkable, bikeable, and viable public transit in where we live. Like, we could have just done that instead. But there is actually a whole other side to this story that I think is really important for us to talk about. So in reality, the self-driving car trend is not about creating a transportation solution for people to get around cities. It is a bailout plan for a failing automobile industry. Boom, mic drop, end of the video. But not quite, because I'm gonna share you my reasons why. I'm gonna share you my reasons why right now. Tesla, Waymo, and all these other self-driving car companies are trying to create a future in which you don't need to own a car at all, which does sound counterintuitive because we're bailing out the automobile industry, right? But bear with me. This is a part of a future world vision that these tech companies are creating, where we, as consumers, in a service-based economy, literally own nothing. You've probably heard the phrase, "you will own nothing and be happy." This is a phrase that was coined by the World Economic Forum. There was a big paper that was written that argued that basically people will be happier if they just didn't have the responsibility of owning things. And obviously it's not that simple. And honestly, the idea almost makes sense if you read it. It's kind of about sustainability and like a person's personhood rather than being identified with the things that they own. Like, it's kind of an anti-consumerist manifesto in some ways. But this idea is kind of based in a utopian future world where tech billionaires aren't the ones in control. And that is not a reality.
It's a lot of the same ideas are being pitched from the World Economic Forum and the sort of private techno overlords, just with different profit motives in like different places that the money's going to. What the World Economic Forum doesn't understand, and what most global international organizations don't understand about Americans, is that if you say, hey, we have a chance one day to live in a moneyless society, the Americans are going to think, what, you're trying to take all my money away? You want me to be broke? You have to pitch it as like, you're gonna have 1 trillion Elon coins and you're gonna be able to redeem them in your flying car that you don't have to have a garage for.
This is the craziest thing about the self-driving cars thing too, is like how is this gonna work from a branding standpoint? Like, Americans are so fucking dick hard about having their own vehicle. Like, their whole culture is like, I have my car and my car is my identity. And then the tech bros are like, wait. What if you don't have a car and you all get transported around in these little pods? Like, it's hard to imagine a worse pitch for the land of the free.
I don't really see it being rolled out ever in suburbia. I do think that it is appealing to the like uber wealthy city dweller who is finding it very inconvenient to own a vehicle for a plethora of reasons. And they see everybody around them who doesn't own one, and there is a sense of jealousy, but it's also unattainable because it's also inconvenient to use public transport because that means I have to sit in the same place as poor people. And so that's what I think the Waymo is the best at, right? Appealing to that person. And that person doesn't really exist in suburbia because everybody else is also driving their own cars. So there's no sense of like, you have something unattainable that I don't have, which is being able to not own a car.
Now, we are actually planning 2 videos that connect to this one about the reality of car ownership today and this whole force-fed AI rollout that we're all living through right now. So if you want to see those, subscribe. But self-driving cars is a very powerful illustration of how this is happening already. Like, it's happening right now. The reality is car ownership is more expensive than it's ever been, between interest payments, parking, gas, insurance, repairs, etc. And people have less money than ever to buy them, so they're buying fewer cars. Now, if you live in a relatively urban area and you have access to public transit and walkable streets, you could get away with not owning a car at all. But that is not where most Americans live, is it? Now, instead of the auto industry creating low-cost, reliable, cheap vehicles that low-income people could afford, they're making self-driving cars for poor people and lower-class people, and they're making luxury vehicles like trucks and SUVs that offer higher profit margins for them for rich people. This is already happening. This is happening right now. And what we're seeing is that they're creating the economic circumstances where people might just not have a choice. Already, for some people, it might be cheaper to just use Waymo and Uber instead of using and owning a car with all the various costs that go along with it. And this is the long-term goal. They are creating the environment where self-driving cars are your best option. And so yes, they are going to make a bunch of money producing and maintaining a fleet of vehicles that they get to constantly be leasing out to us one ride at a time. But there's another layer to this still, because these are tech companies that are running this technology. And so now we have our transportation networks woven into the data of our online world. These companies know where you go, how long you stay there, what routes you take, because they choose the routes that you take, and who knows what other kinds of data they can get off of you while you're in one of their cars. This is just another layer of control and surveillance in a country that is getting more and more authoritarian by the day. All of these tech executives are working with Trump, and you're telling me that this whole self-driving cars thing is not a part of the plan? And we have these companies trying to sell the idea that having these generic robot cars drive you around is the future? It just seems like such a hard sell to me. But if there's anything that we've learned over the years, it's that whatever America thinks it is very far from what it actually is. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there. And if you are subscribed, you'll see us every single week for another upload. And so we will see you then, friends. Not sure what this is. Not sure why I did that.